on the shelf full of my other childhood replacement toys, like a G.I. Joe figure from my childhood. I've got Sergeant Slaughter, of course. I've got Cobra Commander. Here's a couple Super 7 Star Trek figures. My one Transformers figure from my childhood. You can see him here. Some Playmates action figures like Sarek. My autographed by Leonard Nimoy Ambassador Spock card. Completed the Visionaries collection as far as loose figures anyway. So there's the good guys. There's the bad guys. Replaced my childhood Batman figure, which fell apart when I played with him, so he stays carded. And my Captain Power figure with full card and weapon and cape to go with the loose equivalent I found way back then. And of course, a loose Captain Power figure. And of course, they're on my Air Raiders shelf, which is here. So now we take a look at what I'm going to do for next week. All right, there we go. So I'm going to unbox those 4 Motu figures, which will go with these remaining 4. So I'll have 8 in total, and they'll all fit in those 2 spots on the Motu Origins shelf. And then what I'll do is I'll take all this on the 3rd shelf, which is just random. I'll try to put it on one of these 2 shelves and take the vehicles that are on there, put them on the very top shelf, which has a bit more headroom after I move the Motu down. And of course, Star Wars Black Series spilled out over there. So it's an evolving thing, because once I've opened up all the Motu, I start opening up all the non-anniversary figures of Star Wars. Except perhaps the prototype figures and the 40th anniversary figures, of course. But I simply need the room, and that's where I start using these shelves for the Star Wars figures, because as you can see, I take one to prove it, a figure like Anakin will fit here. He won't waste any space, and you can fit multiple figures side by side, because right now those figures are sitting right up here. And I believe that I can fit one of these like that on the shelf without a lot of wasted headroom, and they'll fit behind each other, and that'll take care of part of it anyway. And don't worry, once it's time to move in 9 months or less, I have this, which was specifically designed for model building supplies, as you can see. But the drawer is the perfect size and shape to fit a Star Wars action figure in. Even one like Qui-Gon Jinn here. You just have to see? So he can fit in there even with his accessories. He doesn't waste a lot of space. And I have enough drawers, like there's 6 per row. So let's see. 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48. I have enough for 48 action figures, and I don't have 48 action figures opened yet of the Star Wars brand, even if you count the Cloud City, even if you account for these random ones, which I identified with the book, and those ones there. So that'll work. So that's pretty well an update on how Sean's toy room looks today. Some slight adjustments, but trying to keep the general layout roughly the same. You know, origin shelf, vintage shelf, which is now full thanks to the intact replacement of my childhood figure. Of course, I'm keeping him in the childhood lunchbox forever. And my Star Wars carded figure shelf, which fit all along here. So, that's all for now for Sean's toy room. And we'll see you here next time. 4 days from now, I upload my attempt at creating a construct shelf for my Star Wars action figures. But that was, you can see the constructs down here. But that took a bit of time, and it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted, so I'm going to use these shelves I've bought from the Value Village. In the meantime, and we'll just see how far we get. Now I do have these, which may well fit the Star Wars action figures better. I mean, you can see it will certainly fit a Star Trek one. So actually, the Star Trek ones might be moved to that. Of course, when you figure this is perfectly aligned for Star Trek figures, no wasted space. Let me see if a Motu figure fits on there. So a Motu figure will fit on this shelf as well, but they could only fit 3 in total. 3 or 4. What I might do, since I only have 4 more deluxe figures to open, I might put them on here. We'll see. Because I also have this shelf. And I like this shelf because it has a backing. The other one didn't. Now I do have this shelf as well, which will fit Star Wars figures. And you'd have to go deep in there to see them all. But it would fit them. Now let's see. Will this shelf fit here? It's just a bit too tall. Frustrating. Because I just didn't have enough panels or pieces to make the shelves. There's only enough to make 2 more. And there's hardly any panels, as you saw here, to make more either. It's kind of frustrating. Although I did realize I could fit 3 Star Wars figures onto each thing. You'll see that in the earlier video. So anyway, I guess you could call this plans for toy reorganization. And plans for upcoming videos as well. So that's all for now. For Sean's Toy Room. And we'll see you here next time. Alright, I'm back again. I found something that does better than to fit the Hot Wheels in it. It will fit these Viewmaster slides, one of which is faded. I bought it at the convention. Another that is my childhood Viewmaster slide, which will fit right in there. And that will go back up onto the childhood shelf. It should be able to fit up there without... Well, actually, that's a bit too tall for it. Alright, one moment. Well, that didn't quite work. It was too big to fit under the shelf. But what I said I'm going to do is I'm going to clear all this out, move the figures down one shelf so I can clear out the top to put that level of stuff in there. So we'll see how that works. Okay, you've got a good angle from there as I lower the figures onto their new shelf. So start with that. Alright, so you can see it taking shape. I'll come back when it's finished and take a revised picture. Okay, so as you can see, that's how the figures are going to go for now. I had to lean those card backs because they're just a bit too tall for that shelf. So now I'm going to move this stuff onto the top shelf. Well, with that shelf up there, you know, it opens up a possibility. I'll show you what that possibility is in just a moment. There you go. All 4 of the deluxe figures that I have left to open remain there. Which of course opens up a section here. So give me one more moment. See? My childhood lunchbox in the center, because as you see there's no space on the vintage shelf. Now the Masterverse He-Man, turn on the flash for a moment, just fits in there on the shelf. So I can put my Motu lunchbox in front of him and my Masters of the Universe slides. So that's a pretty good display now. And that's, if I get back far enough, you'll see how my Motu Origins shelf looks. Now, of course I'll crop the picture later. And you can see how this space has been opened up here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move all this Motu stuff onto that shelf and see how it looks. So I'll be back. Unfortunately, you can see the problem. It's not as deep as the other shelf and doesn't fit all the stuff on it. I mean, the random stuff just has to kind of go on the floor for now because that shelf is now full. But it's the Motu Origins that count the most, and that's why they're there with the childhood stuff in the middle. Actually, I'm going to move the Viewmaster slides and put them up there for now so that the childhood lunchbox is right in the middle of everything. So, since I'm still in the middle of organizing, the next thing to do is to take all these figures off these two shelves so that they can be moved in there. And maybe that'll open up extra room for the stuff that's currently on the floor, because I want to see if I can fit all the Star Wars stuff on this shelf. We'll find out. You can see the sheer collection on the floor. So, Masterverse, Ninja Turtles, and everything else, don't worry, I'll take separate pictures in the toy room before I put them back on their shelf. Now to get the Playmates out of the way. I bought a Captain Kirk figure on the weekend, so if anyone needs a spare one, there he is. And of course you can see the difference between the Generations Kirk and the Motion Picture Kirk. And you can see the sheer amount of Playmates action figures I have. But I'll take more pictures later. These large format Return of the Jedi photos haven't even cleared out everything of that third shelf. Well, we'll see how they fit on this shelf. I'm not even going to put them in alphabetical order. I'm just going to put them on the shelf and see what happens. And we'll see if this was a horrible mistake as far as space, or if it actually is successful, because this is filling up this entire half of the second shelf all by itself. But remember, this is the stuff that was also on the front of the shelf as well, and I'm putting all the big figures in first. Alright, so that's all the Return of the Jedi figures. As you can see, it takes up space on that shelf without any wasted space. Well, good news, these are the last of the big figures. So I'm going to put the Mandalorian ones in front. You have Yoda from Empire Strikes Back, and you have Training Luke from Empire Strikes Back. Those are the only ones I was able to find in 2020. And you've got Greef Karga, you've got Ahsoka, both from The Mandalorian, and you have the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm George Lucas figure in the front. So that's how the front figures look at the present time. And that's all the big figures. So now we just start collecting the small figures and go chronologically. We're getting to the figures now. Now these are 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi, the small ones. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them all together with the regular Return of the Jedi. So I'm actually going to do it by chronology. So I'll be right back. Before I go too far, I forgot something. What takes place right after Return of the Jedi? So therefore the latest in the timeline, The Mandalorian. So all those Mandalorian figures I have to come first. Stand by. So that is all the Mandalorian figures I have. And I am going to put Baby Yoda in the very front. Now I'm going to start stacking them in there. We'll see how they do. Good news is, it's working too wide. Almost there. Book of Boba Fett, that's the figure I bought today. And Cad Bane in the front. Mandalorian in the very front. So that is how the shelf looks. That's the bottom level shelf, and you see there isn't much room to put them on top. However, with all the figures I took off there, that was 2 sets of figures. There's only Return of the Jedi and Obi-Wan Kenobi and stuff. So I think I can start feeding in the Force Unleashed and stuff even before I put the Return of the Jedi in place. So I'll be right back with that. All right, so there we go. So the Return of the Jedi and the Empire Strikes Back figures are all here. I'm going to put them on the shelf, and then we'll go from there. And of course, as far as Return of the Jedi goes, I have to put Darth Vader in front of Han. There's one Bunker Han, and there's one Endor Camouflage Han. And I only have small Empire Strikes Back figures. Right there. Those 4. To me, the best thing to do is to put Starkiller in front, in the very front, right next to Vader. There you go, see? So now it's taking shape and it's working. So I have a mix of Obi-Wan Kenobi and everything else here. Rogue One, of course. Now you know Rogue One is just before Star Wars. See, this is Jedi Fallen Order. Force Unleashed. There's something actually from Star Wars. So is that too. So those are the 2 that go up next. Rogue One comes next. So let's make sure I have everything from Rogue One itself. Not Obi-Wan Kenobi, Rogue One. Alright, so there's only 2 from Rogue One. Darth Vader and the Blind Jedi. And now I will put everything from Obi-Wan Kenobi onto the shelf, trying to keep the vintage and retro figures together. Like you see, I have the retro and vintage of Vader. So I can open up that one and keep that one in its package. There's the 2 pictures of Reva, the 3rd sister. Here's the 2 versions of Obi-Wan. And of course, Andor's 5 years before, but I'm just going to tuck him behind Obi-Wan. There we go. So there's the front level of the shelf, 3 across. So there's just space enough to fit these figures in front, hopefully with Phantom Menace pulling up the front, and we'll just see how it goes. So I'm quite pleased. It fit all the big figures. It fit all the small figures. So it actually, because it's deeper, it's working better. So I'll put all those in place and be right back. I'm having to put them in side by side in these latter 2 rows. Alright, so there you go. There's the front shelf. Putting the Clone Wars in front, Obi-Wan, Starkiller, and 40th Anniversary Return of the Jedi. Now there is space up there to put a couple more, and I have Force Awakens figures to put there. Here we go. And I put Kylo Ren in the center because he seemed to be the best part of the trilogy. So, I didn't believe it, but the evidence is clear. There are the 2 shelves of Star Wars figures. So now, I take all this random stuff and move it to where it should be, into the toy room. And of course, I still have all the Star Wars prototype figures here. Alright, as you can see down there, that's where I'm putting all the Masterverse. And then we'll just work our way up from there, because I want to get all the Star Trek Playmates on the top shelf. So all the Masterverse is here. 40th Anniversary He-Man, 40th Anniversary Battle Armor He-Man, which was my childhood figure. Well, that's Hero, actually. So let's move him to the center, because he represents my childhood figure. There you go, see? And there's still room. I don't think I have any more Motu figures, but let's check around for sure. No, they are all put away. However, I think I could put the just 1 second, 1 minute. Remember how the Masterverse He-Man didn't fit there well? Well, I believe that the 40th Anniversary Masterverse He-Man will fit right in the corner. Not the ideal place for him. So actually, give me 1 minute. There you go. Now, I don't know if Shadow Weaver's going to fit in the center there. I doubt it. But let's just find... Oh, there you go. And Shadow Weaver, as you can see. So that's good. So that's the bottom shelf. Mostly Masterverse and the Super 7. So now we move on to the middle shelf, which is going to be somewhat random. So the middle shelf is going to be the Bandai Dragon Ball Z and the Dragon Stars series. So Piccolo was my favorite, so he's going to go in front. Like that. We'll put Super Saiyan Goku in front of him, like so. There you go. And Vegeta in the back. Alright. So, there we are. Now it's time for the Ninja Turtles. So when it comes to the Ninja Turtles line, I'm putting in the 4 main turtles, Shredder and Splinter. Now I'm sure all the turtles won't fit, unfortunately, but let's just see what we get here. Have to put a couple in the back, Mikey and Raphael, or Raphael, depending on the pronunciation. There. And there. Good. So it's working. With a minimum of wasted space, I might add. So I guess now we're going to have to move on to the next generation figures. Okay, so from the movie series, we have First Contact Worf, who's the last one I have to open. Now he's leaning forward quite a lot, so he's going to have to lean kind of like that. Generation Scotty. Generations Kirk. This is the pristine one with the non-yellow bubble. So I'm actually going to move Worf to the very back so I can lean him so he doesn't lean forward on everything else. Here we are. So, you have Super Saiyan Goku, one of my heroes, and Generations Kirk. And of course you have Dr. Soren on the floor. So now we're going to move on to the movies. The earlier movies. Alright, so we put Dr. Soren on the shelf. I'm wedging him back there because he has a tendency to fall forward. You can clearly see now how I have two Kirks. So one to open, one to keep baggage. I'd forgot I had him. And the classic Trek Wrath of Khan figures. They're staying carded as well. So it's highly appropriate that that section of the front shelf is going to be for the carded figures only. But I'm still going to put both Kirks in front of each other. Like that. Alright, Sulu and McCoy. Because we already have Spock. So, Sulu here. See, he likes to fall forward also. But if you put McCoy in front, that'll prevent that. And of course you have Governor Worf from All Good Things. Now this is where I might run into a bit of trouble because of the sheer volume of Playmates figures on the floor here. But that's where I will start putting stuff on the front. I mean on top. Alright, I have all the figures out here. And I'm going to make sure that the autographed by Denise Crosby figure stays in front and always stays carded. And I'm putting Geordi front and center with Kirk because he's close to the Generations uniform. See, the shelf is full already, so I'm going to have to start putting stuff on top. It's not exactly what I was hoping for. So I am going to try to put as much of that second level stuff as possible on that second level shelf, at least until I open the figures. Now those are just temporary placeholders until those figures are opened, and then I can put those figures up on the shelf also. But that has opened up all of this, to which I'm going to move all of that down, so that I can fit the rest of the Star Trek figures on there. Actually, I moved the 3 sets down there, just to make sure that there's going to be room for everything up here. So you can see the Attorney Minis down there. Oh, see, down there. The rest of the carded pops that won't fit in my closet. There. So there's the entire second shelf so far. Leaving the bottom shelf alone. There we go. And my Masters of the Universe lunchbox is in the front. So now that whole shelf is free for Star Trek Playmates. Voyager there. All Good Things in the middle. Alright, and there's the rest of the Star Trek Playmates in front. So I guess there's some room to put these concept figures. So as you can see, I have all 6 versions of Prototype Chewie, and 1 each of Prototype Luke and the Mandalorian. But actually, I think is a better idea is to have Thrawn and Last Jedi Luke on the front of that shelf. So that leaves the question of where to put the prototype figures. I think I'll just put them along the backdrop for now, until I have time to open up the other Motu Origins figures. Alright, so there are the prototype figures along the back. There's my childhood Hot Wheels transport truck on the shelf. So if we get back enough, there's the 2 levels of that shelf. We get back here, we have Star Trek shelf, Ninja Turtles and Star Trek shelf, Masterverse and 40th anniversary stuff under there. And then the stuff on the floor, which don't worry, I will take care of when time comes. So, if we get back now, we can see there's the new revised wall, and there's the other revised wall. So, all childhood era stuff on one wall. but it had to spill over into this one. So that's all for today for Sean's Toy Room. You can see the stuff here as well. This is the only shelf that didn't change today. An aerator shelf, but there's actually a lot more room on the floor here. So that's good. So we'll see you all here next time. And I didn't exactly cover the toy haul, but that's okay. This video will stand in for it, and this will be uploaded near the last Friday of November, which is the third. Well, actually, it'll be December 1st by then. November 24th, in 4 days, gets the video game video. See you later. Bye-bye.